Hi, welcome back to How to Have a Wedding as Individual as You Are, the podcast. Today's topic is one that's really close to my heart because we're talking about LGBTQ weddings. I'm chatting to Alison Hargreaves from Pride Guide, which is a new online directory for LGBTQ couples planning their wedding. Now, lots of people say to me, is there really a need to differentiate or specialise in LGBTQ weddings? And whilst I agree that a wedding is a wedding and it's all about love, there is still a lack of inclusion and diversity in the wedding industry as a whole. So we're talking about language and imagery that only relates to straight couples. So in today's episode, we're given advice on how to find suppliers that are truly inclusive and passionate about helping you celebrate your special day. Sit back, relax, and listen to Alison share her wealth of knowledge on this topic, and I'll see you again in a fortnight's time. Welcome back to the podcast, Alison. It's nice to have you here again with me. Remind everyone who you are and what you do.
Hi there, I'm Alison Hargreaves. I'm the Managing Director of the prideguide.co.uk, Guides for Brides, and various other wedding directory-based websites.
Fantastic. So you've got lots of experience and knowledge about all sorts of weddings on all ends of the budget and spectrum, but today we're talking specifically about LGBTQ or same-sex weddings.
Yes.
Tell everyone how Pride Guide came about, what the thought process was behind setting up a separate website for same-sex weddings.
Of course, so we've been in the industry from 1995, so 25 years now, and seen various changes in the law and the way the wedding industry has developed over the years. And as a result of the law change in 2004 to allow for civil partnerships, we brought out a separate website at that stage called the Pink Guide. And that was very much aimed at same-sex couples planning a civil partnership. But of course, inevitably, we found that it was just a repeat of our main Guides for Brides website, because all businesses supplied for same-sex couples just as they did for heterosexual couples. So the site seemed a little bit pointless. There was a lot of excitement and there was a flurry of businesses wanting to cash in on the pink pound. And actually what we felt is it wasn't quite the right approach. So it ran for 2 or 3 years. And we felt the right thing to do was for that just to quietly dissolve into the background. And for many years, we then had the main Guides for Brides website being a source of information for same-sex couples as well as heterosexual couples. And we noticed the searches that were happening on there and the fact that we were managing to serve the whole wedding community. But our name in particular didn't ever quite feel right. Guides for Brides, we originally set up very much with the idea that we're working with brides who probably have a groom, and a lot of the editorial and the language on the site just didn't quite sit right, and we weren't quite comfortable. And then we noticed an increasing number of gay couples were using word of mouth rather than online resources to plan their wedding. So, and that didn't seem right. It seemed like a problem that we could very, very easily solve. And just by collating that word of mouth community and putting it online into an environment where gay couples have a website that is specifically working with them, editorial that is relevant to them, answering questions that might be specific to them, and just making sure that the suppliers are, that predominantly gay-owned, gay-run businesses or businesses that have an association with the gay community, as opposed to just businesses that have done a gay wedding at some point. That's very much the aim.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good resource to set up. I think it's very much needed. And as I've said in the past, the only people that question whether there's a need for it
are straight people. So they have the best will and viewpoint and intention.
Yes.
They're coming at it from a really inclusive stance on, well, weddings are the same, we don't need to separate, which, in an ideal world, we don't.
Yes.
But as a gay man, I know that there are certain challenges and language barriers and all sorts of factors that do affect how you access certain services, especially in the wedding industry, which, like you say, is very much driven by brides and grooms together.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And there has to be a reason that 16 years on, gay couples are choosing to primarily book gay wedding suppliers.
Yes.
There's a reason, and straight businesses may say, no, we work with anyone, we work with everyone. But if gay couples are choosing that these are the sort of businesses they want to work with,
yes,
then that's fine, in the same way that some couples choose that they want to only work with local businesses.
Yeah.
Some only want to work with eco-friendly businesses.
Absolutely.
It's everyone's choice, and we're slowly rolling out websites that serve each of these parts
niches,
of
so to speak. Yes.
the wedding industry. This is just one, but incredibly important part of that jigsaw.
Yeah, brilliant. So you obviously have a lot of common searches and queries from brides. Have you seen a specific set of issues or challenges that gay couples face when planning their wedding?
I think the comment we hear most often is around if they are having an in-person meeting, having to explain that this is not the best man, or this is not the bridesmaid, this is my partner.
Yeah.
Repeatedly needing to explain, whereas that doesn't usually happen. So that tends to be one of the things that comes as feedback. We have heard from a gay couple who were at one of the big wedding shows, and they went to get their VIP goodie bag, and they were told it was for the bride, and they said, well, neither of us is the bride. We are the couple, and we've paid for. Well, no, it's aimed at the bride, and it's kind of like what we were meant to do. Come with come with a lesbian couple so that they could have our goodie bags. How does this work? That sort of thing shouldn't be happening. That everyone should be thinking, let's be fully inclusive.
Yeah.
It's very, very simple things. Making sure the wording on all of your forms is you, your partner, or partner one, partner two, not bride and groom.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to say, but I know how difficult we found it on the main Guides for Brides website, going through. We've got over 20,000 pages of content on there.
Wow.
It's a big job to try and make sure that we have really been truly open and diverse and inclusive in everything we do. So, and I think that's a challenge for every business, and that's why perhaps we're saying that for those couples that particularly want to avoid those perhaps awkward conversations, or they just don't want to see bride and groom ever again on a form, we are making sure that all of the businesses that we are listing have looked at that and are aware of that, and that's very much what it's about.
Fantastic. So what would your advice be to an LGBTQ couple who are just got engaged, want to plan their wedding, don't know where to look, what to do? What would be your initial bit of advice? Go to Pride Guide?
I would say go to Pride Guide. Also read the information on Guides for Brides. We've tried to make it as inclusive as we can. And that has information generally about wedding planning. And one of the things we hear quite often is, I don't want a gay wedding, I want a wedding. I'm with you. I totally understand that notion. Yes. Most of the information is going to be relevant. How to book your supplier, how to get the best deal, how it works with deposits. Almost all the information is going to relate to you. Have a look on Guides for Brides. Most of our planning tools, for example, things like the guest planner and so on, is we have our standard version that we roll out for everyone. Obviously, we have a slightly different version of the wedding planner and the emails that we send to couples to remind them of what stages they need to go through in planning their weddings. We have different versions depending on whether it's two girls marrying, two men marrying, whether they would rather not specify.
Yeah.
We have different versions of that, but a lot of the content is the same, because it's not a gay marriage, it's a marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully things are changing, you know, and more people are, you know, suppliers are inclusive. But how do you, because obviously you've got suppliers listed on Pride Guide, how do couples identify suppliers that are truly inclusive? Because I know of suppliers who have provided services for same-sex weddings, but I also know deep down maybe they're not doing it for the right reasons, or they're not authentic in that inclusive delivery.
And that's been our biggest challenge in putting together our database, because every business is wanting to be inclusive. It's not just about, you know, going after what used to be known as the pink pound. That's not what it's about. It's that to them it's a wedding, and why cut out almost 3% of your potential weddings by not being inclusive? So it's not that they feel that they're cashing in. It's just you're part of their market, so they are interested in you. So generally there's two very, very obvious signs to look for. Number one, it's going to be that the rainbow is a fairly universal way that wedding suppliers are showing that very, very obviously on their homepage or their contact page as that very, very clear sign that this is a market that they are involved in and perhaps, you know, have bought into more than others for whatever reason. And
I would just say that the rainbow doesn't mean, so for me it's not something that I don't wave a big rainbow flag, or I'm not sort of very political, rightly or wrongly, but it is a universal sign. So if I do go on a website and see that, I do know that I'm going to be sort of welcomed there.
Exactly. People, it's just become something that's allowed people to identify. And we spent a lot of time with our logo going between, you know, a dual-coloured logo and a rainbow logo, and in the end we designed the logo that at the moment includes the rainbow colours on there. Because at the moment that is important for people to be able to instantly identify, and you want to work with people who are like you, and if you identify with that, then you know you're going to instantly see that as a sign of this is probably a website that's going to be relevant to what I'm looking for. But the biggest sign is going to be the imagery on the website, and if there is just one token gay couple on that website, the chances are that supplier has done one token gay wedding. And that's great. They've shown themselves to be inclusive. If they've got a good review from that couple, that's great. And that couple will probably refer to other couples, because that is how things have worked up until now, is it has been a word of mouth side to the industry. But, you know, I think very, very often gay-owned wedding businesses will have quite a large number of gay weddings on their portfolio. It will be very, very obvious. So, you know, hopefully we've managed to identify the right businesses to list. You know, it's not a huge portfolio of them at the moment, because it is something it was more important to us to get it right.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Than to indiscriminately include businesses. But yes, hopefully we've got it right, and it's at least that third signal that perhaps couples should be looking for is they're listed on Pride Guide. You know, somebody from within the industry feels that this business will look after us.
Absolutely, and it's very true when you look at sort of imagery and language, and it should be inclusive without making too much of a point of it. I think. I know when I do wedding shows, or even on my website, I mix up the photos. So what's really nice is when people look at my stand, they might see a nice dress or a nice venue or the lighting, and they're not seeing the sexuality. And I've noticed that a lot, you know, because I do a mix of same-sex and mixed-sex weddings, by me sort of mixing it up, and it's not a big deal, so to speak, a other people are viewing it that way, as opposed to I've seen somewhere it's like, well, this is the gay wedding here, and
Yes.
you know, this is the destination wedding here, and
Yes.
you know, and it's not about that. There's a way of doing it that just makes it seem inclusive and not such a big deal.
Absolutely. No, I agree entirely. Yeah.
Brilliant. So when couples are sort of, obviously they've might have seen some suppliers on your page or somewhere else, in person, are there any sort of things to particularly ask or pick up on to check that they're sort of inclusive and fully embrace the wedding that you're going to have? Because one of the things I always say is to avoid assumption makers. So you get people that say, oh, I've done a wedding for a gay couple before, or you know, they sort of ask certain things that sort of in their head they're obviously already decided who you are and what you want just based on your sexuality or something like that. Is there anything that you've picked up on from speaking to gay couples that they find difficult or challenging in terms of speaking to prospective suppliers?
No, I would say just with any other wedding supplier relationship,
Yeah.
it's more about whether you get on with them.
Yes.
You know, and one of the things will be if they get you, and if they address you in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, or you don't feel comfortable with them in any way, it's exactly the same as any other, you know, any heterosexual relationship. That you're going to say, do you know what, they didn't really get me.
Yeah.
They're not the right style for me. You know, I didn't get the right vibe from them. There's so many things that go into that relationship, because with some suppliers it's really, really important it's right. With some things it's less important, that there's not creativity involved. But for something like your florist, you know, they've got to have the right creative flair for you. So they've got to get you and your personalities, and if they don't, you're probably not going to work with them, regardless of your sexuality.
Exactly. I was going to say that,
totally
you know,
irrelevant.
you just might not. I don't get on with people just because they're gay or straight or whatever. And I've exhibited at wedding fairs before, and I've had people helping me on their stand, and they're like, oh look, there's a same-sex couple over there, like, and I'm like, but doesn't mean they're gonna like my work, or we're gonna get on, or anything like that. So obviously we're talking about the importance of having inclusive suppliers, but the quality of work is still important.
Absolutely.
And being the right price range and all those things, and personality are just as important, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. And what we're finding is that very often the businesses that serve gay weddings are perhaps they've got a slightly different offering for the wedding. Things are quite often, there's little bits that are subtly different. The style of weddings are far more diverse with gay couples. So, you know, we're here in the Landmark today, and in the Landmark suite, which is absolutely beautiful. And this is the sort of place that very often gay couples would come to, somewhere like this, where you can actually go to a suite, get married within a suite. It's not necessarily the great big, you know, ballroom type wedding that they'd be having downstairs. And the venues that are sort of slightly more cued into that sort of thing will suggest that on a show round. So when they're doing a show round for a gay couple, they'll be saying, you know, these are the options. We've got the ballrooms, we've got the tower suite, which is the classic place for a civil wedding. May well be there, but actually they've got lots of other rooms that for perhaps a more intimate ceremony, or one where you can break the rules a little bit more. You can have the ceremony that you want, perhaps with a celebrant rather than a registrar, if it's a room that hasn't been licensed. But you know, the venues and suppliers are just slightly thinking outside the box a little bit more.
I think so, and I think that's a good point, because I think people that are truly inclusive and are passionate about same-sex weddings will offer maybe a little bit more support and guidance, because I think what I find when I first meet same-sex couples is they're not really sure what they want or what they can have.
Yes.
And I think because gay weddings is such a relatively new concept,
yes,
I know like personally, you don't grow up thinking you're ever going to get married.
Yes.
Whereas
Yeah.
I suppose the stereotypical bride who dreams of it from a little girl comes to suppliers with really firm ideas of what she wants and how she wants it to pan out.
Absolutely.
With a lot of same-sex couples, they probably didn't think it was possible and haven't thought about it
Yes.
for that
Yeah.
long period of time. And I've had couples that seem quite lost when I first speak to them.
Yes.
And it's almost given them permission to do pretty much what they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they go
yeah.
away and they have the most creative, original weddings, because once they realise there's no rules,
Yeah.
they really embrace it and go for it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think there is a little bit more responsibility perhaps for inclusive suppliers to just remind same-sex couples of what is possible and how much scope there is to do what they want.
Yeah, and I think we can credit same-sex couples for the huge diversity in weddings now. The fact people are getting married in woods and they're doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's a huge celebration of marriage right the way across the country. And that's probably where it was sparked from, is actually throwing out conventions. I'm a great lover of traditions. You know, I really, really love including certain things still in weddings. You know, however much you're throwing out the rule book, it still seems to be one of those things that's nice to at least root in tradition.
Yeah.
But the different types of ceremonies in particular that are happening, and the different bridal parties with, you know, men having bridesmaids and brides having a best man, and you know, the whole thing is just mixing up, and that's great. People
and it's reflecting the world we now live in as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Do you have any prediction? I don't know if you do predictions. I know you do a lot of stats and analysis, but do you sort of have an idea of where same-sex weddings are heading in terms of, I don't know, the number of same-sex weddings increasing or suppliers becoming more inclusive? Do you?
There was a small increase. The last stats that were released, there was a small increase. Unfortunately, there was also quite a large increase in the number of same-sex weddings that were dissolved. So one of the trends we are definitely going to be seeing is second-time round marriages, and that's going to be really, really interesting for us to see. You know, it's already really original weddings quite often. So actually, then doing it a second time round, that's going to be the recipe for some really fun stuff happening. And it's going to coincide with the changes in the law over where you can get married and where you can have a civil partnership over the next couple of years. So that's
even more options.
That could be fantastic. That could get quite interesting and quite exciting. So yes, looking forward to seeing how that pans out. But no, you know, I would hope to see the entire wedding community continuing to diversify more and more. You know, I think we'd never come across businesses now, as we did in 2004, that say, "Oh well, I'd rather not." We don't ever hear about those. It just, you know, it's not in the new generation of wedding business owners. So
going forward, I think everyone's going to be a lot more inclusive, and it'll be a lot easier to find inclusive suppliers. It's just going back to weeding out the ones that truly believe in what they're offering for you. Absolutely. Cool. So I look forward to logging into Pride Guide and seeing all these new trends and styles being showcased, because obviously that's a big part of what you do. Before we sign off, remind everyone how they can log into Pride Guide.
Absolutely. So it's online, www.prideguide.co.uk, and we would love to hear from any couples who have got businesses they've worked with. Obviously, we are very, very much relying on word of mouth from the community to help us collate this database. So any input we have, we've got all of the usual social media channels. So you know, tag people in on Instagram, let us know who we should be talking to, and that would be great.
Brilliant. So go and take a look at Pride Guide, help you plan your same-sex wedding, and we'll be in touch very soon. Thanks again, Alison.
Thanks very much.